Okay, so in this video we are going to be building a database class that allows us to interact with a MySQL database. So essentially what our class is going to be able to do is to connect to a MySQL server. It's going to be able to query or send a MySQL query, check the amount of rows returned, and then also return that or loop through the result set. So we're going to be building up this class, but first of all I'm going to demonstrate how this works. So the first thing to do is take a look at the database table that I'm using. I've got a database called website, I've got a table inside of this database called articles, and I have got 20 articles in here, just article titles. That's it, that's all we're going to be looping through. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how this database class here works. I'm not actually going to show the source code or start to write the source code. So you'll start to get an impression of how easy this can be to use if you were to apply this to real life. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and require in our database class. And I've called this database.php, you can see here, that's within the classes directory. So let's head over to our browser and just check that everything's loaded in. Yep, no errors there. So now what I want to do is instantiate my class. So I'm going to create a variable called db, and I'm going to use the new keyword, and I'm going to say new database. Now we're instantiating this database class, we're creating an object, but I'm going to return to my browser now and hit refresh, and you'll see that we've got a load of errors here. The problem here is that we have a constructor class, and what this does is it takes 4 parameters in here: the server, the MySQL server, the username, the password, and the database that you're connecting to. So let's just go ahead and fill in these gaps, and then I'll go ahead and enter the details in. So localhost, I'm connecting to my local server, which is almost always going to be the case. The username for the account I'm using is root, and it doesn't have a password, so that can remain blank. And the database, remember, is called website. Sorry, so we can go ahead and enter website in here. So now, hopefully, them errors should have disappeared, and there we go. So we have connected. We've instantiated this, and we've used a constructor to pass in these parameters. And if you're really confused at this moment by this terminology, it will make perfect sense when we run through the source code, so don't worry about that. So the next thing we're going to do is query the database. So I'm going to use the db object, and I'm going to use the query method, and I'm going to query the database. So I'm going to say select, and I'm going to select let's take a look here. So articles, so it's website.articles, and that's from articles, and that's it. I'm just going to pull in all of them articles, so there's 20 there. So let's go ahead and refresh in the browser, check there's no errors. Okay, so we've got an error here for a MySQL number, so expect parameter 1 to be resource. So this is wrong. Yeah, of course. I don't know why I've done this, but so I need articles.title from articles. So articles.title. Okay, so after that we refresh, no errors. So I'm selecting from table, and this is the field. Okay, so what we want to do now is create an if statement. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the amount of rows returned. If there's no rows returned, so there's no results here, we're not going to loop through the data. No need. So I'm going to say if db num rows is equal to 0, echo no articles. Otherwise, we want to use a for each loop. As we'd normally do, we might use a while or something like that. I'm going to go for each db rows as article, and then I'm going to echo article and the field name, which here is title. And then I'm just going to pop a break on the end. So if you're completely confused now, we are checking the number of rows, so we're using this numRows method from the database class. If that's equal to 0, just output no articles. Otherwise, we loop through the rows that have been returned and we call them article, and then we fetch the title from every returned article. And then at the end, we could pop something like, just pop in a paragraph paragraph element, X articles. So X will represent the row count. So in this case, I could say db num rows. Now this method here, it's essentially outputting a variable or a property that we're storing within our class. So really, this is something to explain a bit later on, but you'll see why I can use this method twice, and it won't use the MySQL numRows function twice anyway. Anyway, I'm going to hurry up with this because it's going to get a bit confusing. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh, and there we go. So just using this class really easily, we've just sort of, looped through and done all these bits and bobs. And if we wanted to go ahead and pull out something else, so articles dot, I think it's just called ID. Let's just double check that. Yep. So if I wanted to just do that, I could then just go ahead and echo article ID, and then maybe sort of like a hyphen there or something. And there we go, we've got the ID for each one now. So it just makes it a lot easier here to do this kind of thing. So this was the introduction almost to this. We've looked at how we can use this class, so hopefully got you excited. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going ahead and building the database class itself. I'm going to be explaining what we do, where, why, what we're storing in properties, and what we're using in the methods that we create. And hopefully this should sort of tie together and make sense. So in the next part of the tutorial, we'll look at actually building this class that we have instantiated here, and actually, going ahead and seeing how we can apply what we've done.